Hi guys, so today we're going to look at how to cut your 9 pieces of paper for your, your 9 pieces of paper for your drawing. Again, you're going to need 4 by 4 squares. You'll need 9 4 by 4 squares. So I'm going to start with the easiest option to cut it out of paper, and then I'm going to show you a couple of alternate options for cardboard. If you would like to give those a try as well. So if you've got at least an 8 by 10 sketchbook, you'll need 3 pieces of paper to do this. Or if you've got 8.5 by 11 copy paper like I'm using here, again, you'll need 3 pieces of paper to do this, because I can get 4 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, out of each piece of paper, and there'll be some left over. So again, I'm using an 8.5 by 11 square, or piece of paper to cut my squares out of. Your work will be a little different depending on what size paper you've got. So I'm going to bring in my ruler here so I can go ahead and measure it. I'm going to make sure that my zero of my ruler, my line goes in just a little bit, but I'm setting it on the edge of my paper, and then I'm going to mark at 4 inches. And I'm going to mark 4 more inches further down, so that's at 8 inches I'm marking. Now that inch measurement is the long measurement next to the number, so I've marked that there. My goal right now is to divide the paper this way to make my lines this way, but if I just make one mark down here, by the time I get up here my line could be really crooked. So instead of just trying to put my ruler next to this and make a line that goes upward, I am going to measure a second time, just a little higher on the paper. So I'm going to slide this up. Now what this does is it helps me make sure that my measurements are going to stay even as I work on this. So I'm going to measure again at 4 inches and then at 8 inches. Okay. Now this is giving me a couple little marks. So I've got a mark here, and a mark here. I've got a mark here, and a mark here. All right. I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to make sure the edge of my ruler sits right on my marks. Okay. Okay, so that means like here to here I've got 4 inches, and here to here. Like I was trying to explain to you earlier, if I just guessed, like just based off of this mark, I could have ended up with a crooked mark, and I didn't want that. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Make my line. Okay, very good. All right, so I know that I've got 2 kind of long shapes right now that are 4 inches wide. So I need to figure out where to stop this way and to cut him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my paper. Okay, so the next step is going to be to measure this way. I'm going to have a 4 inches and then another 4 inch to make 2 squares and then 2 more squares. Okay. So what I want to do is, again, put my ruler on the paper, making sure I'm looking at inches, because sometimes rulers have more than just that one measurement. And I'm going to make sure it's a 0 over here at the edge of my paper. I'm going to mark 4 inches, and then I'm going to mark another 4 inches for 8 inches over here. Okay? I'm just putting a line straight down from that measurement. One little line straight down. I don't want to make a line this way or anything, because that's not going to tell me exactly where that measurement is. So I'm going to do the same thing I did the first time, and I'm going to slide further up that paper, and I'm going to make my measurements again. So 4 inches, 8 inches. All right. So you can see my little marks. I've got one here, 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 and here. That's going to show me where I need to make my lines. So I'm going to line my ruler up here. You can kind of see here the marks. There's a mark. There's a mark. I want to get it so I can just barely see both of them the same amount from beyond my ruler. That's going to let me know it's straight. And then I'm going to make my mark. I'm going to do the same thing right over here. If you're not really used to working with rulers, this might take you a couple times. It's okay. It's better to make sure you're getting your measurements nice and straight at this point and have to redo it, then end up with something crooked that's going to give you bad craft, okay? So take your time, really measure and make sure you're getting your squares nice and even. So anyway, there's my 4 squares on my paper. The next step is going to be to cut them out with my scissors. So I've just got a nice pair of scissors. You can see I've got a little extra. This is, like I said, an 8.5 by 11, so I've got a little extra. I can trim that off. You know, take your time with your scissors. The trick with scissors and getting them to cut straight is to look at where the tip of your scissors are going. Go slow and just kind of try to line up the tip with where you want it to go. So I'm using my line on my paper and I'm trying to make sure that the tip of my scissors is closing along that line. That's going to give me a nice even cut. Okay. So I've got some scrap. I'm going to recycle that. And then I've got some more pieces here. These are going to be 4 of my squares for the project. So I'm going to cut. Watching where the tip of my scissors are going. Trying to end up along that line. There's 2 down. I just got to get 9 all together. And I'll be done. Okay. So that is one option. Another option, you know, maybe you want to do some painting, or maybe you want to attach, you know, something to your, maybe you want to attach something heavy to your drawing. Maybe you want to use some 3-dimensional things like buttons or something else maybe that might represent you. So one thing you can use is, this is just, this is an old carton for drinks, see? And I had it, and I was going to recycle it, but it's perfectly fine for making some artwork on. If I want to have something a little heavier, maybe this would be a good thing to use. So I can measure out just like I did with my ruler before on this. In this case, I might even use a stencil, you know, since I already have a stack of these made. And this stuff is so thin that once you get it, once you get your outline on here, you can just cut it with scissors. So I'll show you real quick. I'm going to use the stencil method since I already have these cut out. But you know, if you are going to make a bunch of these, you know, just use your ruler, you know, at least for the first one. You can trace it if you know that it is perfectly 4x4. Okay, so now I've got my lines there. I'm going to cut off some of this excess because I've got a lot of, you can see there's a lot of, woo, there's a lot of box there. Okay, so again, this stuff is, mine is from a drink container, but, you know, you could find the same kind of box material on cereal boxes. It's just that real thin cardboard. It's going to be heavier than paper, but it is going to be much lighter than something that like is like a packing box. Okay, So there's another option. If you want to maybe do some painting, or if you wanted to attach something that was more three-dimensional, like that would be a heavier duty surface. This will be behind my artwork, so I'm not going to worry about that being there. I don't know, I might find a way to work this into something I was doing. I don't know. You can use collage, so, but if I just want it to be plain, I could use it like this. So the last option that I wanted to show you is corrugated cardboard. So the corrugated cardboard is the heavier, like box type cardboard. It's called corrugated because it's got these, I don't know, these little, I guess, corrugations inside that makes it thicker for packing. You can see this is an old drink container too. This side has like impressions from the cans that were in it, but the other side is pretty smooth. If you want to cut something like this, you are going to enter into like box cutter or X-Acto blade territory, all right? So if you use a tool like this, first you need to, you know, if you're at home, I mean, if you're in the art room, talk to me before you do any of this. We need to talk and look at safety with this instrument. If you're at home, you need to talk to your parents and make sure that you have their permission to use a tool like this, okay? There's also some things that I'm going to talk to you about here that are going to help you to protect any surface that you're working on, and help you to protect your hands, because you do not want to cut yourself with this box cutter. This box cutter could really hurt you if you're not careful, all right? So again, don't do this without the supervision of your parents, okay? And permission of your parents. If you're at home, if you're in school, we need to talk before you start using a box cutter. I'm happy to help you, but we'll need to talk and make sure you understand how to use it, okay? So first thing you'll need is something to protect your surface. I've got my grungy, crusty old cutting board. This is for art projects. I've had it for many. I've probably had this since college. It's very dirty and messed up. So if you've got something like this, you can put it on your table to make sure that you're not cutting your table. If you don't have something like this, just another piece of cardboard underneath it is fine. It will help protect. You just want to make sure that you're not pressing down so hard that you're going through both pieces of cardboard, okay? So let's get this out here and measure out our 4 inches. So I'm going to measure off of these creases here to make sure I've got 4 inches, because I don't want the crease in the middle of my artwork. 4 inches this way. I'm going to make a line. Okay. I'm going to use this guy as one of my lines, and this guy is one of my lines, okay? And I'm going to measure this way, 4 inches. Okay. So that should give me my square that I want to cut out. Now, if you are cutting with a box cutter, you always want to make sure that you close the blade when you're not using it, and that you're cutting away from your hands. You never want to cut towards your hand, because that's when you're going to cut yourself. Cut away from your hand. You can also use something like a ruler to help guide your cuts. So if I'm cutting this here, I'll put my ruler next to it. A metal ruler works best for this if you've got a metal ruler. I'm going to go lightly through the surface, and then I'm going to go again, all right? I'm not going to try to press down and get everything cut in the first cut, or I'm going to end up with a crooked line, all right? Then I'm going to turn it towards me. I'm going to put down my ruler. Again, I'm working on top of protection for the table. And I am making sure my thumb and my fingers are back and away from the blade. I'm not cutting toward my hand at all. If your hand is not in the way of the blade, you're not going to cut yourself. But it's very easy to get, you know, lazy or, you know, forget and get your thumb out there, you know, and come close to your thumb with the blade or cut into your finger accidentally. So that's what you want to just be really careful and mindful while you're working. Like, this is not the time to be, this is not the time to be, you know, paying attention to something else. You should just be paying attention to what you're doing when you're cutting, okay? So I've got some scrap pieces here. I'm going to put that aside. Another piece to cut. Okay. I got one more piece to cut. Okay, so that gives me a 4x4 that I can use in my design if I want to have something even heavier than just the cardboard box material. So I've got some choices, you know, I can make depending on what I want to use. The only reason to go with something really heavy like this is, you know, if you just have something you want to recycle, or if you are going to do something heavier like a lot of thick paint, like acrylic paint, or some other heavy material that will bend the paper. If it's kind of medium, you know, what you want to do, like maybe you're painting, but it's not super duper heavy, or you know, you've got some light items you want to attach that you think the paper might be too flimsy for, this would be a good option. You can cut it with scissors. It's just carton paper, like, or carton cardboard, like from a cereal box. And then, of course, the easiest one to cut, you know, if you're using drawing material, watercolors, like just paper like this is fine. If you are going to go water media, I'd say opt for, if you've got it, like a slightly thicker paper than just copy paper, because copy paper is, you know, going to ripple up when it gets wet. This would work great for dry stuff. Watercolor paper, mixed media paper is going to be best if you're going to use some watercolor. All right. Now, again, when you're done with your box cutter, do make sure you put it away. Okay, don't leave that blade just out. Make sure you put it away so it's not going to accidentally hurt you or hurt anyone else. Again, don't use a box cutter unless you have permission from your parents to do so, or if you're in the art room, unless you've talked to me and gotten clearance to do so. We want everybody to be safe as they're working on their art projects. All right, good luck, happy cutting. I will look forward to seeing your 9 squares.